Good morning.
Morning.
Um, I think we should introduce ourselves. My name is James Pryor. I am the co-founder and director of Nueva Vida Group. I'm joined by.
Your co-founder and co-director of Nueva Vida Group, Jack Ballantine.
Welcome to our very first recording. This is weird, but we're excited. So,
We had a great meeting with a new business mentor who's going to help us out with some things within our business. And the big takeaway really from him was that we need to bring people into these conversations that we're having all the time, because we can add a lot of value through those conversations. And that's what the ethos behind our sort of quite informal podcast is. So our aim is really just to sort of start to bring our audience into the conversation that you and I have, or the conversations that we have with clients about the market and about the services that we offer.
yeah, big topic at the moment, which we're finding, and specifically this year, and I'll probably say at least 80% of the people that we speak to is big UK companies, people, lots of people are leaving the United Kingdom.
That's
Um,
crazy, isn't it?
it
I
is
mean,
crazy.
since the start of the year, I've never seen anything like it. I've been in the industry for nearly 20 years. And I remember when that big report came out from Henley and Partners with the big number. I think they estimated that 16,500 millionaires were looking to relocate and leave the UK. I remember saying to you, I said, this is a big thing, but the reality of actually relocating at that number, but I think that number, it might be double, could be more. It's
Mm.
absolutely credible. And we're seeing it all the time, aren't we?
Yeah, we're getting lots of messages and calls about how to do it. Are they, can they fully take everything over, or do they need to create a subsidiary of their companies abroad? So there's
It's
lots
quite
of.
complex, isn't it? It's
It
not
is.
as
It's a very
simple as,
complex subject. I think. Luckily we know quite a few people that have done it and done it really well and successfully, and we've learned a little bit along the way on that, because it is very. I say it's very specific to the individual in what they on how their infrastructure and internal setup is, and
but I think it's changing all the time as well. I
yeah,
think,
you need to
we've,
constantly
we've
adapt
just,
to those things.
yeah,
Yeah,
in at the end of August, we completed on a deal with a client who's also a close friend, moving from the UK to Spain, and that we started planning that 12 months ago.
yeah,
And I don't think people really realise that that's one of the biggest things. Actually, you've got to get planning now. If you
yeah,
think you're going to try and relocate at some point in the next 6 to 12 months, apart from possibly Dubai, there isn't anywhere else that you can do that particularly quickly. You can actually physically move and you can start the process and you can go and live a life in somewhere else. But actually, it does take quite a lot of time for it all to go through. And I think, in that particular case, they did everything. They used the most high profile, best uh, residency lawyer in Spain, who we work very closely with to do that. But it wasn't an easy task.
well, because it's
I
a
mean,
lot of external stuff, isn't it? You get the best advice, but then you're dealing with the actual, the government, the civil servants, who are you need to get various things done and addressed by and confirming these things, and that's not a 2 day turnaround on an email. That's can be months, can be
oh,
weeks.
man.
And yeah, you're completely at the behest of people who are in no urgency to do it, and you need
Yeah.
one form. Yeah,
I would say what I have noticed from the relocations we've done over the last few years, especially, it's well worth it. I mean, for those particular clients in all their different cases and situations, it doesn't matter whether we relocated them to Monaco or we relocated them to Spain, the Middle East, wherever it was, they're all really glad they did it, which is such
yeah,
a shame. But there's people are searching and needing and wanting and craving that better life outside of the UK. I don't
yeah.
think it is all down to tax. I
No,
actually think a lot of people have
I
become
think
completely fed up.
we love the UK, and there's some amazing things about it, but right now it's not a particularly pleasant in many aspects country to be in. When was it when we were speaking to one of our clients who uh, lives down south, and he almost refuses to let his family and you know close friends meet in London. He just doesn't think it's worth it anymore. So someone like that, and they're London born and bred. I think that's a massive warning signal. Is that if people who are accustomed to city life don't want to go there anymore, yes, that's a major red flag, isn't it?
I
And these
think
destinations around Europe and the Middle East, they offer that. They're it's a really encouraging environment to be in. It's the lifestyle and the security is in a much better place than it is right now in the
let's see
UK.
if this list I've got resonates with our client base. My answer is I think it massively does, but let's see what you think, right? So I went into ChatGPT. I put the top 5 destinations that UK tax residents are relocating to. Number 1 was obviously the UAE, and we can go into detail about why that isn't as a popular choice as some people might think. Number 2 was the US, and specifically Miami, New York, and Texas. Number 3 was Italy, which I think a couple of years ago we'd have never said Italy, but it's definitely Milan, especially, has become really popular. And the last two are a bit more obvious, which is Switzerland and Monaco.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm not surprised. I think Switzerland, I think has always been a desirable place for that particular clientele. I think that's just been
Same
a
with Monaco, but
no.
Monaco, you're not going to get residency in Monaco overnight. I mean, that's an even more drawn out process. I think
Right.
the US one surprised me, but kind of doesn't really. I think it does. The destinations that it mentioned on that search, it does attract that sort of entrepreneurial, business minded British, you know, business person. Certainly does. Certainly Miami, New York, but Texas, obviously, places like Austin, which are offering amazing, reasons for moving. But I think one thing I think we should talk a lot about is the UAE because it comes up in every conversation we have. And I had a call with a client a couple of weeks ago discussing permanent relocation to Spain, and the most easiest situation for someone in the UK if they're looking to relocate to take is to move to the UAE. And even
Yeah.
if that's for a year, you know, whilst they think about moving to somewhere like Spain or Portugal, which are the two areas where we have the most demand for in general, but it seems to be the most attractive. What I do think is that actually we're starting to see a few inquiries come through our acquisition services asking for relocation from the UAE back into Europe.
Yeah.
I think that's
My,
kind of telltale sign.
yeah. My
I
thing. I
think
mean, UAE. I think is a great place. I think it's been a very good place for a good couple of years now. And I think it's almost getting a bit too heavily populated, and people, I think, want that quieter, not necessarily quiet life, but a quieter kind of living experience. And I think the UAE, I mean, we've been there many times, and it is great. I say it's great for about a week, and then you kind of you want to relax a little bit. And I think some of the major European destinations, I think, offer that. And I think that is a lot more appealing for longer term living. I think and the most obvious thing is that it's only these European destinations are max 2.5 hours away from England, because
really it.
people are leaving the UK, but that doesn't mean they're never going to come back. Some people,
Absolutely.
they'll need to come back a lot. Family, opportunities, meetings, important stuff. And if you're it could be a 12-hour round trip if you're have to go there and back in one day, or and that's not what people want to be doing now. So if you can cut that down by half, Madrid's 2 hours away, Marbella's 2.5 hours away, Lisbon 2 hours away, Quinta del Lago 2.5 hours away, all these places, which you could say offer the same lifestyle. It's not going to be as extravagant as the UAE, but I think people from the long term want that quality of life where they have the busy social scene, but then also the quiet scene and the good healthy lifestyle. And I think that's what makes Europe a really positive destination for that. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
surprised. Not surprised people are moving to Dubai, and then 6 months, well, a year later, kind of thinking not quite right, maybe for set up for family. So yeah, I'm not
I think
surprised.
it's important to caveat that what we're talking specifically about is really is UK
Yeah,
residents, UK tax residents, leaving the UK, because I think what our most noteworthy deals that we've done for clients, acquisitions we've done for clients over the last few years, have all been for Middle Eastern clients in
Yeah.
Europe. A large percentage of British, but it's pretty equally matched, especially in terms of value by Middle Eastern clients, Middle Eastern based clients. So I think brand Europe has never been better.
No.
Even now, I honestly think brand Europe, destination Europe has never been better. And I think the amenities and the services that are now available all year round, especially somewhere like Marbella, which never has an off season now. I remember when we first were going out there, and it was pretty much dead from,
Yeah.
I'd say, late October, maybe beginning of November, all the way through to April. And then as soon as you got to Easter, it sort of started to pick up again. But
It's completely changed,
now
isn't it?
it's completely changed. People are living there all year round and loving life, and everything is open. Everything's available to them all year round. It's an amazing destination.
Yeah, and you're at 18 degrees in middle of December. I mean, that's exactly what you want, isn't it? That's exactly what I want. But
Me
yeah,
too.
it is. I mean, it's not completely relevant, but it is very relevant. Is that the golf scene? That people want to be playing golf. Sometimes 33, 35 is a bit too hot to playing golf, and it's called the Golf Valley for a reason in Marbella, and that's because there's such a huge demand of top tier golf courses and playing all year round. I mean that for people who like that, and it's not just golf; it's paddle, outdoor paddle. You can play all these stuff all year round, and you're meeting all sorts of people there, and it's a fantastic environment to be in.
I, yeah, I think over the next few years, my view really is that brand Europe
Yeah,
and the destinations in Europe
yeah,
are going to really thrive.
yeah,
I think, and I'm talking about relocation, global relocation, people from America moving into, I mean, we've just got back from Comporta, haven't we?
yeah.
And Comporta, so for those that don't know, is an hour and a half south of Lisbon. It's very easy to get to, and it's an amazing beach-fronted destination that no one really knows a great deal about.
No,
And we should do a whole podcast on it. But we were hosted by our great friends at Albany Global, who hired one of their villas for us. And it's the best way of describing it is sort of pared back luxury at its best. There's amazing brands developing and creating incredible branded residences. So Six Senses, we went to see. I'm not going to try and pronounce the golf course. Go on, you try and pronounce it.
Pinurino is what is
Yeah. And so, which was absolutely incredible. We were so lucky to play that.
yeah.
And then you've got Vanguard doing Dunas to Comporta and Torre, which again they were so special. And we played them before, but played Dunas before, but they are, in my view, top 10 in
Yeah.
Europe
For
by
the
far.
golf things that is Torre is that has been specifically built to be a potential Ryder Cup course.
And you can
Has
tell it's
You can tell
fantastic.
the views, but it's the whole infrastructure of the course is phenomenal, and it's you know we were there, and we were lucky, probably the first 100 people to play there, because there wasn't even a car park, was there? There was mobile coffee machines and a mobile
Couldn't even a
clubhouse.
coffee.
Yeah, only decaf coffee, which is probably explain why I didn't play very well. But
I think Porter, like,
yes,
there is room now for this.
yeah,
I think Comporta is going to be the new most desirable
yeah,
holiday destination. It isn't an all year round destination. The weather does not allow it to be that. People are
no,
not going to relocate and live in Comporta.
no,
But as a holiday destination, if you've got multiple homes
it's a
in
no-brainer.
the world, you say you've got a home in the US, a home in the Middle East, a home in London, a holiday home somewhere else, but you want that extra sort of bit of privacy, bit of security, Comporta is going to be top 2 or 3 in your list. Worth saying that our favourite developer in the world were first there with Discovery Land. I mean, what they've built there is just
Yeah,
we
if you
should.
don't, people
That's
don't
another
know.
podcast.
Yeah, if people don't know what Discovery Land is, just type in Discovery Land on Google and just be prepared to have your mind blown. The arguably the most impressive I'll probably say impressive landing page or website, to be honest, as well. But just the sheer size, and if you're into luxury real estate, these guys are the top. I mean, they build incredible homes. They build phenomenal golf courses, and each golf course is about 5 halfway houses. But it is mega, mega, mega. So have a look. They're all over the world. We've seen a few of their sites around the world, and it is mega impressive.
One thing we're never going to disclose on this podcast is our clients. That's
Which
something we hold
good.
so dearly. We're
Yeah.
not talking to any. We would never talk to release a client name ever.
No.
But we can definitely talk around the process that some of our clients have gone through.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaways I have at the moment, where tax is such a sensitive subject, there's 3 key things. One, I think, is you've got to allow enough time. These things done quickly is not the right way to approach it. If you're going to rush something, mistakes will happen, and might not be now, but at some point that will crop up and that will be an issue for you. And that's not something we'd ever advise anyone to do. So allow enough time, and do a lot of prep. Invest in that prep, because it'd be certainly worth it financially if you're paying less tax and spending that time and money doing that discovery. Second thing I would say is that, most of the people we talk to, most of the clients are quite happy to pay some tax.
Yeah.
They are not looking for a tax-free life, especially if they're moving from the UK. They're used to paying tax. So schemes, for example, in Portugal, Spain, Italy, where you do have to pay some element of tax, they're good schemes. There's some great things out there, whether it be a golden visa or whether it be a nomad visa or a Beckham law, or there's lots of different mechanisms and opportunities there. You don't need to go to the other side of the world unless you really want to pay zero tax. You can stay in Europe, you can stay close to home. So I think exploring those areas and those destinations give the people that our clients that we talk to, those destinations do give them the lifestyle they're looking for. They also give them the home comforts, the security, the privacy, all the things that they're sort of also very keen on maintaining.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say is almost like the property comes last. Don't buy a property before you've done all this work. We're in the business of helping people find properties. That's what we do. Yeah. But I'm the first to say, hang on a minute, let's do all this stuff first.
Get your ducks lined up first, because there's no point going through all the work of shortlisting and finding the perfect home to realise that you're 6 months away from actually executing it. Right. Well, I think we'll end it there. I think it was really good for our first one. It's definitely
all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. It's important to state that we have an incredible network of some really fascinating and interesting individuals, business owners, the lot, and we're going to try and get one guest or 2 guests every week, and all different facets of this life that we live in, and really kind of bring to the front the stories and the successes that we've had and what they've had, and really just have an honest, free-flowing chat, and share real insight into how things are done. Because I think today's a day where it's where they don't want the fluff. They want real-time, live problems, situations, successes. And I think, what better way to do it than having a chat.
Couldn't have said it better than myself.